It's like this thing where you think you've thought of something really profound, and then you like write it down. And you're like, I've really solved life's mysteries, and then you go back and look at it, and you're like, what? Why did I just write potato salad on this sheet of paper? And I thought it was like the meaning of life. Hey, this is Amrita and Andrew. We're on a podcast journey to find our way through freelance life. If you're thinking about taking a leap off the beaten path in any part of your life, our totally inexpert advice is don't think twice.
You ready?
So we just had
Are we on and we
a little
live?
TLC jam. Yeah, we're live.
Oh, I was just laughing at that because I love that song, but I think it's really funny. And I was gonna say like, oh, this is my jam, but then it's like a mid-tempo song, so it's just funny to have like a mid-tempo jam.
Yeah, because you can't enthusiastically be like, "That's my jam."
Yeah, did you see me dancing? It was like, this is my
It was
jam.
a very
and I was
like, loose limbs.
It's not like a. It's not like
a bedroom
R&B,
jam,
yeah,
right?
it's not
Right.
like Maxwell.
Yeah, it is not like Maxwell. You're right. I think that mid-tempo jams are. I also find them hilarious, and I think they are a result of car culture.
Absolutely, because when you go to live concerts and you experience a mid-tempo jam,
You're like,
"Ooh,
"Ooh,
I don't know how to be in this room right now."
Right. What do I do? Do I dance?
Because I can't.
Do I like sway?
It's not like a slow thing, but it's not like a fast thing.
Right. Do I just nod?
Yeah. Do we just like?
Yeah.
I feel like it's awkward for performers too.
Like people who are like that, who have, I guess, what are the kids even listening to
Like
now?
Post Malone. Oh my God!
Post
I got into an interminable
Malone.
conversation.
Post Malone is
These people I'm
interminable
talking
in
about
general.
won't listen to this.
Okay,
I don't think.
whatever. Tell me about him.
I was working with a few people, and I got into this conversation where they were like, "Oh yeah, I would love to go back to see Post Malone again in concert." And then someone else was like, "Yeah, I would love to see Post Malone and like Coldplay together in a concert."
Wait, no, you didn't. That's
Because
a joke.
we were talking about
That's
the
a joke.
Citizens Festival or whatever it is.
Global Citizens.
Yeah,
Post
yeah.
Malone was at Global Citizens.
No, but Chris Martin is the.
Oh.
Chris Martin.
He is like a producer, or something.
Yeah, he's like the head of the Global Citizens Festival. Whatever it is.
Okay, this explains. How come you didn't tell me that when I went
Common
last
knowledge.
year?
Common
That
knowledge.
was not common knowledge. Okay, so last year, avid listeners may or may not recall. I'm not sure if we talked about this. I went to the Global Citizens Festival not because I did good works for our community, but because I got comp tickets from the organization whose employ I was leaving, who sponsored the festival.
Right.
And after spending easily 5 hours trying to figure out how to get into the festival, we were so naive. We're like, oh, it'll take like 2 hours maximum. It took forever. And then we got in. We narrowly caught the very end of Shawn Mendes' set. Now that's a product of car culture, Shawn Mendes. And
Sing me a Shawn Mendes song.
it's, they're like crooner type shit.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like white guy with a guitar music. And there was a shooting scare right before Janet Jackson went on, and nobody got shot, but everybody stampeded, and it was really terrifying. Turns out that I'm really excellent in a crisis, and actually Jed is very excellent in a crisis too. We were very calm. We kept our heads about us, discovered that there was not, in fact, a shooting going on actively. And so then we just turned around and walked back towards the stage, and we had been at the very back of this 60,000 person show, and then we got to the very, very, very front. But like as we were like trying to figure out what was going on and like walking back over this like field of like shoes and discarded phones, like Chris Martin appears out of nowhere like on all these jumbotrons and is like, "Stay calm, everyone." And I was like, and then we just like started laughing because of this absurdity of all of a sudden Chris Martin just appears telling us to like stay calm. I was like, is this the new like NYPD protocol?
Yeah.
Just send in Chris Martin
an English person
to calm the crowds. Anyway, it makes a lot more sense because I was like, where did he come from?
He's
Why
like
is he
chair of
here?
the festival or whatever.
Okay.
But to my original point, I was trapped in a green room with people who thought that it would be a great lineup to have Post Malone with
That's insane.
Yeah. And then someone who is like, he's like
Like, are
23.
you sure they weren't just fucking
He's
with
like,
you?
oh yeah, Yellow, man, that's like a classic.
Oh my god. This reminds me of when I was in a bar not too long ago, and the bartender, so this is a person who's old enough to serve drinks, was talking about how the band that was playing on the radio, or on the bar sound system, was like, it was like before her time, and it was the Strokes.
Oh.
I was like, oh, okay.
I'll tell you that time that I had to help someone fax something,
Mm-hmm.
and then so I helped him,
Mm-hmm.
which faxing has never been like, anyone who faxes anything, you have to do it 5 times, and
Yes.
like it doesn't go through,
Right.
whatever. So I helped him fax, and then he sits there and he watches the paper come through. We receive the confirmation that it went through. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
prints out another piece of paper that says like received.
Yeah.
And
With, like,
he
a
looks
code
at
that
it.
makes no
He
sense.
looks at it. This guy, he's in his 20s. He looks at it, and then he turns to me and he's like, "So, on the other end of this, what happens?" And I was like, "It's a fax." And he's like, "Yeah, but can you, like?"
Explain
And I was
to
like,
me.
on the other end, there's another piece of paper that is coming out. And he was like, that's wild. And then he goes, why don't we fax more often? Like,
Like, it seemed really convenient to
Yeah.
him that it just
he was
printed
like,
out.
because you don't have to like download it and print it.
You know, he has a point, I
Yeah.
guess. But I love that he's like, wow, what is this technology? This similar thing, or not really, just sort of like youths not understanding things. My sister told me this great story about how she was trying to share the magic of the Parent Trap, the original Parent Trap,
Yep.
with her children who are 5 and 8. And
The 1950 some odd
Haley
version.
Mills version.
Yeah.
And they were completely confounded by this one like comedic scene where all these hijinks ensue because there's a phone conversation happening and somebody picks up the other handset for the phone in another room, and the girls were like, I don't get it. And then when you try to explain something that's like really simple, sometimes it's like really hard
It's
to
hard.
explain something that's really simple.
Because they don't have a landline
I
in their
guess
house.
they do have a landline, but nobody ever answers it, and it's always
Or
like,
they only have one phone. One.
it's wireless. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe they just don't. They just have never thought about the landline
Right.
and the idea that you could listen in on the landline.
I mean, imagine all those that are gonna like remember when you had to text with like by pushing the one button 3 times to see,
And then T9
See
was
you
like the
later.
autocomplete.
Imagine trying to explain that in years to come.
Yeah, it's gonna be confusing.
But anyway,
Of course, like to us, that was more recent memory than for others, since you and I didn't acquire smartphones until like 2014.
2014.
I still regret it in some ways.
I still have my same smart. My phone just turned 5 years old.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so it was your first one.
No, it's
First
my
one,
second
but
one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, 5 years old. It still works perfectly. No more news there.
Yeah,
Just
I
that.
unfortunately am like on my 4th or something at this point in so many years because
Yeah,
I
we need
keep-
to talk about this.
what? Tell me, what do we need to talk
Just
about?
your irresponsible nature towards like objects,
Okay,
things.
first of all, I reject that strenuously.
Oh, you feel like I'm coming for you?
I feel like you're coming for me, and I feel like you're my mom right now. That I don't know the value of a dollar, and I don't
Okay,
have any.
how did you
responsibility.
lose this last phone?
Okay,
You want to explain to the internet? It was late.
it was very late. I was very sleepy, so I left my phone in the car, and then someone stole it out of the car.
You think that's what happened?
Yes.
Who would want that shitty phone?
I don't know. What can you get? Like, are there like chop shops for like old phones?
With crack cases.
I mean, not
Cracked
cases,
screens.
cracked screens. They were like shards. I have cut my finger trying to use that
Yeah, I
phone.
don't think anyone
Anyway.
stole it.
Well, no one returned it, so I had to get a new phone. But it is not the first time that has happened. Something similar has happened to me. Not because I lost it, because I did break my last one. And
I've only ever gotten a phone because I've lost the other phone.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway,
there's that.
but I disagree with your assessment about my relationship to physical objects.
Okay.
Because in fact, I
apologize.
have sort of an opposite problem where I love, like, I'm such a materialist. I love things. I treasure my things.
Yeah, it's not that you don't love them.
I care for them a lot in terms of, like, the objects that I own, especially if they're shiny. Magpie mentality.
Let's get into it. Let's get into the real.
Just experienced a life-changing moment, a seminal experience, one that has been a lifelong dream for me.
It almost became true 5 years ago during our road trip, but Mother Nature had other plans.
Exactly. So I think that part of it is that, like, especially that near miss makes it so much sweeter that I finally made it to Dollywood.
Finally made it.
So exciting. So exciting. So first of all, like, I have to admit that I didn't have, like, a super strong idea of what Dollywood was before I saw it in person. I just knew that I needed to be there and that, like, it was my dream to experience it, but I wasn't totally sure what I was going to be confronted with when I got there.
That's probably the best way to go into it. Now, I haven't been to Dollywood in decades.
Okay.
So I need to know
I'm
what
going to
has
give it to
happened
you.
since-
I'm going to give it to you. So,
This park wasn't always Dollywood.
no, so it was totally another, it existed in a very different format and probably in a very different state of repair and wasn't like, maybe like, it wasn't really like a big tourist draw or anything,
Right.
you know, it was just sort of like a rinky-dink local theme park. And Dolly took it over, I think, in like 85 or something like that, like mid-80s. And it's like a huge tourist thing now, and it brings in tons of like travelers, and there's this whole sort of cottage industry that's sprung up around the area. And honestly, like, you think, like, just seeing it, the number of people it employs it's really amazing. Like, it is like an amazing thing she did for her, like, for her hometown. There's hotels, there's like shuttle bus
Is there
drivers.
a water park?
There's a water
feel
park.
like-
The water park was closed. Hilarious, because it was over 100 degrees like the weekend that we were there, but it was September, so it's
Well,
quote
you know how I
unquote
feel
no
about
longer summer.
water parks anyway. But
I know you don't like water parks and you find them just, you know, I'm discovering more and more that you're like more of a germaphobe.
I'm not a
You
germaphobe at all.
are.
Don't put that on my shoulders. But
You
let's
just said
think
that
about
you
it.
told me
You take
yesterday that you don't
thousands
like
of
sleeping
children-
naked. Hang on, that you won't sleep naked because of the germ implications. That makes no sense. The water park was closed even though it was like scorching hot, because apparently it's like quote unquote not summer, but we're having major like global warming and everything.
Yeah.
So it was the start of the Fall Harvest Festival at Dollywood, which entails hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of light up pumpkins, and not just that, but like pumpkins that are like fiberglass pumpkins that are made into different sculptures. And it was also this like a local artisans festival in the fall. So there's all these like people who are like wood carvers and like quilt makers, and there was a fiddle maker that my sister befriended, who they could barely understand one another. I mean, his accent was unbelievable. I mean, it was unbelievable. It wasn't even like, I just haven't heard an accent like that before.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like a southern accent. It sounded like something different. It almost sounded more like a Pittsburgh accent.
Really? Well, deep into the mountain, I can understand that.
So no, I appreciated that, but it was just really funny. So that's really awesome too, because it was like, you know, it's like local art and like local culture. And I mean, granted, like one of the artisans, I mean, her shit was pretty cool, is a chainsaw sculptor.
This is a popular thing.
Yeah.
Like black bears.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't believe that you knew that. It was just like
It's
a
everywhere.
whole stand filled with black bears made out of chainsaws.
Yes.
That's a thing.
Yeah. That's everywhere.
That's incredible. And her name was either Tanya or Carla,
Of
the
course.
woman who made them, and was
Probably
like
both.
the
It's
mo-
probably Tanya Carla.
like a very, very butch woman in a hooded sweatshirt on a 100-degree day with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
So you were there for 2 days.
We were there for 2 days. We had the kids with us, my sister's kids, and you know, so they were delighted because they were having like the total theme park experience. They got their like Dippin' Dots, and they got their bubble wand, light up bubble wands. They got face painting, glow in the dark face paint. They got like all the treats.
Yeah.
So butterflies are Dolly's like spirit animal. And I would just like to point out the interesting crossover between Mariah Carey and Dolly Parton, which hadn't occurred to me up until this moment, that they were both like deeply obsessed with butterflies.
Yeah.
So that is everywhere. We stayed in the Dollywood Dreammore Resort, which is...
Is there more than one resort?
No, just the one. She stays there 4 to 5 times a year. I told you that.
How big is this resort? We're talking like 400 or 500 rooms.
It's not that big, honestly.
Okay.
It's really not that big. There's a ton of other hotels around, and we probably could have done a more budget experience by being at like the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, but if you're gonna go.
Exactly. And my sister was like,
although,
we're gonna go.
I mean, if you're gonna go to Dollywood and Pigeon Forge, maybe you do go to the Ramada.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but
that's like probably the realer experience.
That I think is gonna be the next time.
Yeah.
If I do it again, it might be that. But I mean, they ran a little trolley to the park and everything. So one thing that we did was, and that you had warned me about, is the Stampede.
Yes.
So this is separate from the theme park. It's its own like barn. It's basically Dollywood's version of medieval times.
And it's Dolly's Stampede
It's
now?
now called the Dolly Parton Stampede, and you had informed me.
I swear it was the Dixieland Stampede.
It used to be called the Dixie Stampede. So they understood that the Dixie Stampede is like not a good thing to call a thing.
Yeah. A Civil War reenactment.
A Civil War
in which the South wins. Is this what happened? You went to a dinner show of the Civil War with a different ending.
Yes, but did I have a good time? I did. Okay, so it's called the Dolly Parton Stampede. They have, there was a moment. So it's just like American history, quote unquote. Okay. I'm making big air quotes here. So there's like a part where they're like, in the history of our great nation, at first, the land was populated by a people of magic and wonder, and then like a guy rides out in like a full like a feather
white guy, right? Like
feather
Gus
headdress,
comes out there and like yells,
and then my sister and I look at each other in abject horror, like we made this face, like Home Alone, like jaw on the ground. We're like, oh no, this is gonna be so bad. But actually, the Cherokee number was not as bad as it could be.
Great,
And
then they marched them away in a trail of tears.
And then they were like, and then it was like, and then came the pioneers, and it was like,
wait,
what? Anyway, the whole thing is like it's equestrian in nature. So there's a lot of trick riding. So it's really not like a fat guy named Gus. It's like the fittest like 21-year-old like trick riders. I mean, these people are incredible. They're like athletes. They're doing these crazy stunts where they're hanging from like 1 foot, like dragging their hair on the ground of the galloping around in circles, and like narrowly dodging each other on the horse. I mean, it was actually like very impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about horseback riding, but indeed there was a moment. It was like the competition part of the evening where they divide the stadium up into north and south.
Oh. Because
we were on the side that was divided, that was like the north, and we had a lot of defectors on our side that were cheering for the south. Because,
oh, really?
Yeah, because all
That's
these people,
awkward.
Because all these people are from the south, and like so they want to like support the south because it's not like they haven't scrubbed it enough of its associations with the actual Civil War. So we were like, oh, ooh, okay, whatever. So that was awkward. And then, anyway, so it was basically medieval times in Dollywood, and it ended with like this, that we were all part of one great nation, and then there was like this, then they all came out in like these red, white, and blue, like light up, sparkling things with American flags that were like 10 feet tall on the backs of all these horses, while Dolly Parton is singing about the red, white, and blue, and I've honestly never felt more patriotic. I feel like Dolly Parton is like making it okay to be patriotic again. She's taking that power away from Donald Trump.
I don't know how I feel about this show. I think I need to go.
I think I took you on a weird journey by emphasizing the Civil War connections. But all in all, I do have to say that it was really delightful. Okay. So the other thing that was going on that I think I told you a little bit about is that it was the Southern Gospel Festival.
Yeah.
Which I was super excited about because... well, for many reasons, just because inherently I'm interested. But we are writing a script in which our main character is an aspiring Southern Gospel star. And for people who don't know, Southern Gospel is basically
It's a genre.
It's like code
It's
for white gospel. So gospel is gospel, and Southern gospel is like white church music.
It's like bluegrass derived gospel music.
And there's a lot of really beautiful and interesting music that comes from this tradition. But what I learned, and feel free to disagree with me.
Sure.
What I learned is that it has really become a very like sort of pop Christian radio type of genre. So what we found is that there were lots of sibling trios.
Always has been
2 women and a man, who does not sing bass, by the way. He sings some
tenor
adjacent thing. And like honestly, we couldn't even get through a set. We got through like 3 numbers of a very high profile group that we later learned is in the Southern Gospel Hall of Fame on the Dollywood campus, called the Martins. Mm-hmm. You seem to have some familiarity with the Martins? Okay. Is that like a known group? And
I mean, is known, yes. In the small Southern Gospel world, yes.
I'm sorry to say this, but
they were terrible.
They were terrible. You know, I did find that there was some camp appeal a little bit in that, but it wasn't great. So then what we did is we just went and started listening to the music that was just around outside in Dollywood. They have like regularly scheduled performances just all around the park. And those were incredible. It was like bluegrass. Okay. It was bluegrass. And, you know, I'm not like a bluegrass fan per se, but like watching it live is so cool because it's, you know, you don't see that many opportunities outside of country and bluegrass, actually, country too, where you have like a big band, like where there's at least like 6 different instruments being played at the same time. Like think about the last time you saw that live, like in a non like classical music setting. And just like watching that sort of like the synergy of a band of people who are all super, super good at their instrument play together is so fun. Yeah. It's so fun.
Because it's hard too. I mean, they play fast. They play like they're picking. They're not just like
and
strumming
there's no
everything.
drummer.
Yeah.
So it's like the self-driving rhythmically. I mean, there's a bass player, but like, it's like it just hangs together so well. It's so good.
Well, I'm disappointed that you didn't really get to experience some good Southern gospel.
Yeah. So tell me, like, I feel like it exists, but what we walked away from it was like...
You know, it's one of those things. It's like it's a deeply conservative...
Sure, yeah.
...place. Most people who are Southern gospel fans are like very conservative. And in the 90s, probably the 80s, contemporary Christian music came to be. And like the two merged together
in this unholy
like,
alliance.
Yeah, so now it's just...
Actually, a holy alliance, really.
So it's unfortunate because it's like if you hear like Southern gospel singing like church hymns and like the harmony is really tight, it's really fun. It's really nice.
Well, so I guess I knew but didn't really like process the connection of Southern gospel and shape note singing are very closely intertwined, and I knew about shape note singing from going to college in New England, and that's a huge tradition there. It's really interesting how New England and actually Appalachia like have some cultural crossover because of their connection to like Anglo-Saxon traditions that have been preserved in this way. You know, Massachusetts is a Puritan state, and it still basically is, and a lot of that culture has like remains there. And in the case of Appalachia, it's like so sequestered that a lot of those traditions have
when I went to college and we were learning similarly about shape note singing, I was confused because I was like, this is just
church music.
This is just church music. Yeah. And this just sounds like Southern gospel singing. And
so in the New England, there's like a whole New England school of like shape note singing, and it's very popular still. I'd been to a bunch of sings, whatever do you call them. And, you know, they do it in the traditional way of standing in the square and sort of shouting at each other in the middle. And it's beautiful. Like, the harmonies are so beautiful. Yeah. And
it's the same vocal style, though.
Yeah.
It's like...
And it's nasal and loud and sustained. And
verging on a yell.
Yeah.
It can be. It's like verging on that kind of...
And when you're in the square, like, you're because you're all singing into the
loud.
center. It's so loud. It's so loud you can't even hear yourself. So you're yelling, everybody's yelling, ish, and
on pitch,
and it creates this like just like a wall, like a resonant wall. It's so cool. Anyway, so I was hoping for a little bit more of that, a little bit less of the Martins, but
well, you get what you get.
Yeah.
So you had a good trip overall.
Oh my
Sounds
God.
like you had a great trip.
It was
You would recommend?
truly magical. I learned so many things about Dolly, who is like, I think, some sort of like sainted figure, truly. I mean, she is like an amazing person. There's a whole museum about her life that you can go and see. It's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, except it's just about her. You can like
I love that woman.
And all of her outfits.
She built it.
Yeah, I know, she built it. She built a literal shrine to herself. And the program starts with, like, the museum part experience starts with a hologram of herself welcoming you to the thing. And my younger niece, who, like, views Dolly Parton as this, like, crazy, like, drag queen figure, who she is, and, like, could not be pulled away from it. Like, she just wanted to keep watching the Dolly hologram, which at the end of the segment turns into a butterfly in, like, a flash of sparkles and, like, flies away. I mean, it's too much. So, and they have her outfits and stuff, which are, like,
tiny?
You look at them, I mean, she's tiny, but you look at them and they're proportioned in this just, I mean, you know that she has crazy proportions, but then you see her outfits and you're like, she's a cartoon character. Like, it's crazy. Also, they have the original coat of many colors.
Oh, no.
In that museum, and it brought me to tears.
It brought you to tears.
Just thinking about it is making me a little, like, teary. It's so beautiful. It's that song. I cried so much when I first heard that song for the first time. Oh my God, it's so nice.
You are crying.
I am a little bit. Anyway, it was really a beautiful experience, and I recommend it to all. You're laughing at me so much right now for literally crying. It was a very magical experience.
Let's take a break and listen to Coat of Many Colors.
Blessed with a kiss, my coat of many colors that my mama made for me, made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors mama made for me.
We often talk about our professional life on here.
Mm-hmm.
And our professional life looks a lot different than the last time we've talked on the air, so to speak, about it. But it's just been really busy, and I hate that. Like, I hate when someone asks you how you're doing.
And you say busy.
And you say busy.
Yeah.
That's not how you're doing. That's what you're doing.
Well, then give them a different answer.
I know. So I just have, like, a few thoughts about it, which are, first of all, you said something really wise to me that I just want to repeat. Okay. You often say wise thing. Don't huff into your wine. Which is that I've been struggling so much with the idea of like not being able to get everything done on my list. And you were like, well, maybe that's actually the lesson you need to learn, is not how do I get all the things done on my list, but how do I be okay with constantly not getting everything done on my list. Because ideally we want to live in a world where yours and my, like, our creative endeavors are so far ranging and numerous and exciting, and
you could never possibly check everything off in a day.
Yeah.
There's always more work.
Right. Like, we want to be there. So therefore the value of this experience right now is for me to just be okay.
And how's that coming along?
It is hard for me psychologically, because it's just in my nature, I guess, to, like, feel like I want to just put a period at the end of the sentence and just, like, cross all the things off the list. But as our work gets more complicated and more clients, more things going on, like, that's just not how it works anymore. Like,
well, I think people are really the problem. People are always the problem. Other people. So, for example, you and I have a lot of work on our plate, like, let's say this month. And not all of it is done by the end of the day. But I don't feel any type of way about it, because I work with a person who's not going to add more work, busy work.
Right.
So whenever you have to stop doing what you're doing to give someone an update, people just have this incessant need to like be in the know, and they don't trust people that they work with. And so you're like fighting. It's not even just fighting your to-do list. It's like trying to, because you can't just say to people like, if you'll leave me alone, I can get stuff done. But like, if I have to stop to give you an update.
Yeah. Or just
If
interact in
if
any
I have
way.
to like pass every decision through you, then like I can't get anything done.
Yeah.
So there's that too.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been, but like also like working with other people is sometimes inevitable. And, so I do think that's part of learning. It's just like,
true.
and also just like being a little bit unapologetic sometimes when it's like, oh, well, how's this thing going? I didn't get to it. I didn't have the time. It's on my list. It's not done.
Yeah.
You know, well, your value as a person or the value of your day is not driven by your productivity.
Right.
That's how valuable were you? How much money did you make for somebody else?
Yeah.
Is really what is at the heart of like how productive were you today? You know?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you that productivity is a bad measure for how your day was.
I mean, I completely agree. I hate being productive.
You know, but like also just like being busy. It's like being busy is such a, like a virtue for a lot of people. You know? Like it's seen, especially in New York City.
And like, for example, this weekend I was working at a festival, and I had the luxury of just needing to essentially work the festival itself. So, and I'm also like, you know, contractor, so I get to be like dropped into the situation and then
leave.
do what I will. And there are all of these people who work for a company that are trying to prove their worth inside the company. So there's just like a lot of performing that goes on of like stress and everything is such a big deal. What we're doing is a big deal. And it's like I come in and I just watch all of these chickens like run around, like just in trying to like prove to themselves and to others that like, see, I'm doing things. I'm just doing things. And it's like, okay, this thing is now going. The train has left the station. The event is happening. So the best thing to do is make everyone's experience a positive one. You can do all the planning in the world, but then if you get there and you're like, well, that's not you can't let them do that because that's not the rules that we talked about in the office like 2 weeks ago. Right. And you're like, you dumb asshole. Like,
like who cares?
Who cares? That was a plan that you made with all the facts that you had, and now
we have different facts.
So anyway, this person who works, she's like, wow, you're just like, you just don't ask anyone. You just make decisions. And I was like, yes, I do. I mean, she was complimenting. She's like, oh, it's good. Like everyone is, she said, you're really good with customer service. Like everyone is happy.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, because I don't waste their time like radioing the boss to like ask them if they can go like whatever. You know, like I'm giving a bad example, but the point being that all these people were just running around trying to look so productive that they were literally like running around people who were at the festival, running around me. And like I was actually really the only person
it's like
doing anything.
Right. I mean, because what is valued is like keeping a frantic pace to prove that you're like so valuable, that you're like working so hard. I'm working so hard. I'm so stressed, so I must be working hard.
Point being,
it's the cult of busyness. That's all I'm saying, is that there's more value in being busy than actually getting stuff done.
Well, I feel guilty about it too. I mean, I've been inculcated.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, because you know, I'll work from home and I'll like do the thing and I'll be like, oh, I didn't
do enough today.
Like I did that, and now I made that phone call, I sent that email, and now everything's.
The other thing is that you're like, which is a great thing about like self-employment or working from home, is that you can just set your own timetable. So if you're really efficient, sometimes you're like, oh no, like I didn't work hard enough today because I only only like sat down for 2 hours and did this thing and got all this stuff done.
Yeah.
What would have been better if it had taken you 7 hours to do it, or
and having our own company and things and being able to like bill the way we can bill. It's like, oh, I can just order the vendors. I don't have to like fill out the form, send the email, answer three inane questions.
Hugely
about
time saving.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, everything's booked and paid for.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a busy month is what it is, and please check me when I try to say that how are you? I'm busy, because that's not a good answer, and I would like to be held to account on that matter.
Well, do you feel like you're distracted from your life sometimes, like, and thinking about what you have to do?
Yes. I feel like I'm distracted from the things that really matter in my life.
Yeah.
Because what I do to get paid is...
Sorry.
No, it's okay. What I do to get paid is not necessarily, feeding me in other ways. So...
Right.
Although it is quite literally feeding me. So, I do feel distracted. I feel distracted from my social life. I feel like I don't have enough time to see people and like be connecting with people in the way that I'd like to. And I feel distracted from like our creative purpose. And I don't like feeling busy for no reason. Like if I feel like I'm like, everything's so busy because something. But if it's just like, I'm just busy because I'm busy, it's been very frustrating. So anyway, we've talked about this, and I think it just means like, conversely, like programming more time in for more things, like scheduling more things.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes when you're really busy, what you just need is to like have a disciplined plan of like, well, then that means that I only have these 2 hours to write this thing, or
right, instead of just like pining for the couch and like working desperately and then going home and like sitting on the couch and watching TV.
Yeah.
Or zoning out or whatever that is. And then as if like, oh, I just need a break in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more just about like scheduling more stuff so that if I'm gonna be busy, at least I'm also gonna be busy equally moving the pieces ahead on the things that matter to me,
right? As
well as just like moving the pieces ahead, quote unquote, or just like basically treading water on the things that I have to move forward for.
I know,
to keep things moving. So.
I know.
Anyway, sorry, but that's fall. Like this fucking month is bonkers. Last month was bonkers. I want to tell you about a break from a busy day that I had yesterday that was really exciting for me. Your face right now.
Yesterday. Okay.
I was just in the middle of...
I saw you yesterday.
Yeah. That was on my like third job of the day, basically. Yeah. But midday, I had to take a break because a designer was fitting me.
Oh, you sent me the sketches of this. This is great. It didn't download on my phone, and then I pulled it up on my computer.
Okay. So I was like very bashful about being included on this, but I have to say that my ego has gotten the better of me, and I am loving this whole process. Okay. So there's like a designer. He made a like mood board that has my face on it, and like designs for me like that are colors that are like designed for me and stuff, and my ego just blossomed when I saw this design. This is
dangerous.
Sketch. I know, I love it. No, it's not dangerous. I need more opportunities to stunt.
Okay.
I'm feeling, I'm not like in my greatest like, self-confidence moment of my life right now. So I love that there's a mood board that has my face on it.
And a whole design.
A whole design concept.
Materials.
So I had my first fitting yesterday.
Okay. Oh, so they've constructed.
Yes. There's also a crown.
Oh.
So he's talking about, it's going to be he's trying to assure me that everything's going to be very comfortable. He's going to try to make the crown as comfortable as possible. And I was like, this is the sentence that I need to be said to me all the time. I will ensure that your crown is as comfortable as possible. That is That is a mood board for me.
Yeah.
I want people to be saying that to me
That's
on a daily basis. I will ease the comfort of your crown. You can subscribe to us anywhere you listen to podcasts and find us at vjandstevens.com. That's VIJAY and Stevens with a PH. We're working on some scripts and some fun new live projects. You can find us at VJ and Stevens on Instagram, and our assistant Susan now tweets at Memos from Susan.